When I did that video a couple of months ago talking about why the Vikings should go after free agent guard Dalton Risner, I did it under the assumption that, yeah, I as a Vikings fan would like to see this happen, but realistically speaking, it's probably not going to come to fruition. The Vikings, they're not going to entertain it at all. This is fantasy. Until now, because reportedly Dalton Risner will be visiting with the Minnesota Vikings. This according to Mike Kleiss of 9 News Denver. He covers the Denver Broncos. Dalton Risner, former Broncos player. He's a left guard. And I will say this, whether the interest by the Vikings towards Risner is for either a potential depth signing or a potential starting role, either way, it's a win-win for Minnesota. He would certainly be an upgrade over Ezra Cleveland. In fact, it's crazy because watching the Netflix docuseries Quarterback, Kirk Cousins, re-watching all those hits that he took, most hit quarterback in the league in 2022, the footage that was shown, who were the two primary culprits? We knew this during the regular season, of course, but watching that footage on Netflix, who were the two primary culprits to allow that to happen? Ezra Cleveland and Ed Ingram allowed their backs to get consistently turned around. It was ridiculous. But he's an upgrade over Ezra Cleveland, and it's interesting just how polar opposite of players that they are. Cleveland, those that want to sing his praises, he's a solid run blocker, pass protection is very poor. Well, in a pass-happy league, what are you gaining from that? What value does it add to your starting unit, especially trying to keep a pure pocket passing quarterback, keeping his feet on the ground? It doesn't really add much value. Risner is a solid pass protector, and run blocking could use some help, and that's putting it nicely. But in terms of what's going to be better for our offense, for our quarterback, for what's the strength of this team, the passing game, it's Dalton Risner. And it's really unfortunate because it's not even Ezra Cleveland's fault. Coming out of Boise State, this dude could play left tackle. He could play out in space, stay in front of his man, and do his thing. Asking a player like that, and I know teams across the league, they will experiment from time to time. We'll take a tackle, play him at guard, take a guard, play him at tackle, or take a tackle, play him at center, whatever. They like to experiment with that from time to time, but it's just a lot to ask for. If you're going to make that switch, you better be right. Playing out in space versus playing inside, you have to be one of the strongest dudes on the team. Playing interior offensive line is not Ezra Cleveland's game. But signing Dalton Risner could potentially be huge for the Vikings offensive line. It would take a lot of things to work out in your favor, but let me explain. You already have 2 elite offensive tackles. Check. Garrett Bradbury had a very good year last season. I'm a bit skeptical thinking that it will carry over into next season, 2023, just because of what I've seen from him his first 3 years out of NC State. I tend to feel that what we saw last year will really regress to the means, but I'll entertain it here and say, at the very least, Bradbury will be serviceable. Ed Ingram, rookie year last season. One could argue you can't possibly get any worse for the wear. So we see some level of progression by him. And at left guard, you replace Ezra Cleveland with Dalton Risner. Dude, you could potentially be on the cusp of a competent, average offensive line, which is what we've been asking for as fans for years. I can't remember the last time that I was able to sit back and chill watching our quarterback drop back and pass the ball. But looking at the interior offensive line last year and all the hits that Kirk Cousins took, you can't go into next season and not make a change. That's all I'm trying to say. Dalton Risner, he gets into your building, don't let him out. The return of Danielle Hunter, no longer holding out or holding in. He's back after agreeing to a restructured deal. He gets a pay bump in 2023, going from $5 million to $17 million guaranteed, $3 million worth of incentives. So he could potentially make $20 million, which is exactly what he made last year. In addition to that, there's also a no-tag clause that was negotiated for this new deal. So you can't tag, franchise, or transition tag Danielle Hunter after next season. He will be an unrestricted free agent, which after next year, he'll be 30 years old. And the way that things have been trending with Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is that if you're going to give out a lucrative new deal, which he has yet to do for Justin Jefferson or TJ Hockenson, he has to at some point, right? If you're going to give some sort of lucrative new deal to a player, do you really want to give that to someone who's going to be 30 years old, oft injured? Maybe time is running out for him. Probably not. So I get it as far as why, if you're not going to trade him, which I want to know what offers did he receive for $99? Because, man, come on. You can't get, worst case, a second round pick for him. Because if that is an offer, if you ever did get that, sold. I'll go ahead and take it, even though I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I was sitting here begging for a first round pick after the Bradley Chubb deal. But I wonder what sort of offers that he got. I guess it wasn't anything that was worth trading him for. You might as well keep him. If you're going to trade him away and just have Marcus Davenport and then rely on Patrick Jones II, which I wouldn't mind Patrick Jones II as one pass rusher, I just don't know what we're going to get from Marcus Davenport, who also is going to be a free agent after next season. Then you better get something really good for $99. Furthermore, man, when you talk about Danielle Hunter, Kirk Cousins, I believe Marcus Davenport as well, the Vikings in 2024, they're looking at about $50 million in dead cap void years for those three players. So it will be interesting to see how they make that work. Are they just going to bite the bullet next year and say, all right, we're just going to load up in the draft and do what we got to do, and then in 2025, that's our year to shine? It'll be very interesting to see. Also, I saw that after today's practice, the first day of padded practice, Danielle Hunter said, quote, "I want to be a Viking forever," which all athletes, they say that, especially after they sign a new deal or agree to a new deal. He's saying what he's supposed to say. Good for him. If I'm a betting man, I would probably guess that this is the last year that we see Danielle Hunter in a Vikings jersey. Additional notes from training camp. Jordan Addison today was turning heads. I saw some videos, a couple of clips on Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called now, where his route running, his footwork, man. I tell you what, this draft class, league-wide, I think Zay Flowers is the best receiver in this class, but Jordan Addison, to me, is a very close second. He, along with Justin Jefferson, who's been making unbelievable catches. What else is new? That's going to be a sick-ass 1-2 punch. A nice duo at wide receiver. I mean, I don't want to jump the fence here, but I do think we can possibly see something along the lines of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, or A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I think they can be that damn good. Lastly, the cornerback room. For the most part, when you account for OTAs, minicamp, and the short stint of what we have so far of training camp, the cornerback room, shout out to Caleb Evans. He's been working his ass off, but Evans, along with Byron Murphy, they've been out there. So they've been entrenched. Obviously, Byron Murphy Jr., he's going to be starting, whether it's at the nickel spot or outside. He can switch around, which is very valuable to have. But Byron Murphy Jr. and Caleb Evans, they're out there. They're entrenched with the starting unit. That third corner, and I know that, well, nickel cornerback is not necessarily a base defense. It really is when you consider that, just anecdotally speaking, base defenses in the NFL pass-happy league is the nickel defense, in my humble opinion. So more often than not, especially if you don't exactly start the game in a nickel formation, you're going to play a lot more nickel than your base, whether it's a 4-3 or 3-4. But that third corner has not been Andrew Booth Jr. It's been between Jawan Williams and Mekhi Blackman. Jawan Williams is listed, because he came over from the New England Patriots, listed at 6'3", 212 pounds. That's a big dude to play on the outside. Caleb Evans, 6'2", significantly lighter than Jawan Williams, 6'2", 198 pounds. And then you also got Byron Murphy, 5'11", 190 pounds. Dude, Brian Flores does not give a damn about your status, where you got drafted. Before I got here, it doesn't matter. Now that I'm here, all I care about is putting the best players out onto the football field that will execute to the level that I demand. There's so much intrigue behind this first-year defense of Brian Flores with the Vikings. No one knows what to expect. This potential big lineup of a Caleb Evans, Byron Murphy, Jawan Williams, hell, even throw in Jay Ward for S&Gs. Just have a big-ass lineup out there in the secondary. That's going to be fun to watch. And lastly, special teams coordinator Matt Daniels confirmed that there is a competition, a kicking competition that is, between Greg Joseph and Jack Putt-Lesney. Good. I'm so glad this is happening. I wanted this to happen. If you remember the undrafted free agent video I did as far as the Vikings signings after the draft, I specifically mentioned Jack Putt-Lesney. Why would you bring a kicker in unless you're going to have a kicking competition, unless you want to have a kicking competition? They didn't lose any games last year because of Greg Joseph. You could say, well, they won games in spite of him, but they didn't lose games because of him. So you can say, well, all right, just let them go into 2023 free and easy. Nah, man, we can't afford to have any hiccups. The schedule is going to be brutal, much more difficult than what we saw last year. Every point counts. I don't know if Putt-Lesney is going to win kicking extra points because that's Greg Joseph's, that's his kryptonite. Kicking extra points in college, it's much closer compared to the NFL. But if nothing else, if Putt-Lesney doesn't win the job, then damn it, it's going to light a fire under Greg Joseph. I love it.